Unless you've been asleep for the past 24 hours, you will know by now that the beautiful friendship between Elon Musk and Donald Trump is over in a major way. We want to understand it better, and instead of trying to find some neutral observer who's going to be exactly fair, we understand that this is a division that goes deep down the American right, and there are no such people as neutral observers. So instead, we're going to find people who are engaged, who are in the battle, and you can make your own mind up knowing the perspective they come from. First, we are in touch with his most ardent critic, the attacker-in-chief of Elon Musk, the person who for months has been stirring revolt among the MAGA faithful against Elon Musk, Trump advisor and host of The War Room, Steve Bannon. Welcome to UnHerd, Steve.
Love the website, go there every day, and honored to be on here.
This must be a busy day for you because someone you're not that fond of, Mr. Musk, has fallen out with the commander-in-chief. Do you see it as a personal victory?
No, it's not. I don't ever look at things like that at all. Right now it's a national security issue. You know, the president was more than kind to Elon, to bring him in, to treat him like family, to have his family at Mar-a-Lago, he and his son. President Trump gave him total access, total support. The Doge effort was very supported. I was a big supporter of deconstructing the administrative state. And, you know, what we found out is that he didn't find any fraud, right? He promised $2 trillion, then $1 trillion, then $160 billion. And what's even out there, these are all programmatic things that have been in appropriations bills that Republicans and MAGA have been arguing about, like the first $9 billion rescission package. So he hasn't, and we're demanding, like, where's the money? What was Doge really doing? Number one. Number two, we want to make sure Doge and Elon Musk didn't take any of the data sets for his personal use, for his artificial intelligence, which is driving all of his businesses. So we have to make sure of that. On the national security side, given what he said about the president, it wasn't like making changes to a bill he knew everything about and never made any comment at the time. For your audience, he came in and tried to be destructive, kill the bill, kill President Trump's centerpiece of his legislative agenda and his supply side tax cut, and kind of repurposing the American economy. Also, we find out from the Wall Street Journal, he actually called CEOs when Liberation Day came and President Trump was in the beginning phase of talking to other countries and talking to CEOs about reciprocity of tariffs. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that he went and actually whipped up CEOs against President Trump's tariffs. Now, President Trump, I think, had enough of it. Elon asked to stay longer. Mark Caputo and Axios reports that. President Trump said, no, your time here is done. President Trump's very uncertain of what Doge actually accomplished, wanted him out of the White House, was pretty adamant about it. And like an 11-year-old, Elon struck back, and what he said yesterday, he crossed the Rubicon. This is not about a bill. It's not about cutting spending. We're the biggest deficit hawks out there, been on this, working this for over a year. What he did was to try to destroy the bill, kill the bill, right, which would destroy President Trump's supply side tax cut and a huge tax cut for the working class and middle class here. But then he went further than that. He's the one that made it personal. He talked about the Epstein files. He talked about impeaching President Trump and replacing him with the vice president. Given everything we've gone through, remember, we're 10 days or 9 days away from the 10th anniversary of Trump coming down the golden escalator. What the MAGA movement's been through, what President Trump's supporters been through, what President Trump has been through over the last 10 years, all the ups and downs, the triumphs and the defeats, to sit there and go, after President Trump's been impeached twice by these radical Democrats, to actually say that you want him impeached, and then to talk about and threaten him with your money, that, you know, I'm going to be around for 40 years, you're only around for 3.5 years. It's totally and completely outrageous.
I mean, you've been singing from this hymn sheet for a while. You've been criticizing Musk on these grounds. I mean, if you're right, doesn't it raise pretty serious questions about the president's judgment? He was saying nice things about him just weeks ago. They were continuing to be friends. I mean, how did it last so long?
Well, look, number one, we are building a bigger coalition. You're seeing this in UK politics also. We're building a bigger coalition. And so you do have these tech bros, right? They did come in. Some of them came in late in the 24 campaign. Most of them came in after we won. And we're trying to build a bigger coalition. But here's the issue. These people translate money to ultimate power. And Silicon Valley values, Silicon Valley's way of doing things is not Washington's way of doing things, and Washington's got to change. We're hammering it, but there is a process. You just can't come in and get everything you want and do it entirely your way with not thinking about people at all. And what Elon did, and I think the president tried to make sure that he had every opportunity. We all want to cut federal spending. His promise and commitment to the president of cutting $1 trillion in federal spending was something he stuck to the end until we found out it was all a fraud. I mean, this is what caused the physical altercation you had in the West Wing right outside the Oval Office between the Secretary of Treasury, Scott Bessent, who's a good friend of mine and a very even-handed guy. He and Elon got into a physical altercation. And that's because, number one, people felt that day that Elon might have been on drugs. And number two, Scott called him a fraud to his face and said, look, we're in the middle of a terrible budget fight. You committed to a $2 trillion, then you committed to $1 trillion. Now you talk about $160 billion. We don't see where you got anything. And obviously that got under Elon's skin. So I think the president went out of his way to basically give him every opportunity to perform, and it turned out just to be a fiasco. And he turned on the president viciously, and he turned on the president personally.
On the Scott Bessent point, you say that the black eye that Elon had in the Oval Office was actually caused by Bessent punching him? Is that the information you have?
No. That happened. The Scott Bessent physical altercation happened weeks before. That was one of the controversies about the IRS. But this is one of the reasons I think the president said, hey, I think the China briefing where he tried to get a top secret briefing on the China war plan, given the fact that he's in business with the CCP. And many people think that he might be an agent of influence of the CCP since he's always promoting the Chinese Communist Party's party line. The Bessent thing happened a couple weeks after that. But look, the black eye, the president said yesterday, he offered the guy some makeup before they had that final little ceremony, and he turned it down. And the president, brought it up a couple of times. It was odd. I have no idea where it came from. I will tell you, I think it looks like the receiving end of a left hook. I'm not sure his little boy, 3-year-old boy, was able to deliver that, but then I'm sure that will come up in one of the drug investigations.
You're not claiming it as a personal victory, but at least it looks like a victory for one kind of understanding of MAGA. The more big government, the more worker side understanding of what MAGA means, as opposed to a more libertarian tech bro, as you call it. Do you think that has been a philosophical battle? And do you think that battle is now won?
Look, it's certainly not one. The populist nationalist is not that we want bigger government. We actually want government out of people's life, but we do understand that you need an apparatus, right? You need some sort of regulatory apparatus. This is why right now the anti-tech bro Justice Department, we're the first group to actually work with Democrats to make sure that you can break up these great concentrations of private power because they're dangerous. So in the Justice Department, we have a fierce antitrust going on. And the Justice Department, we have Google in federal court and 2 federal courts that try to break them up. We've got Facebook. President Trump's FTC has Facebook in federal court with a lawsuit that Lena Khan, the great Lena Khan, in her time in the Biden regime, of which they didn't take her very seriously, really honed this lawsuit. So you have this, what we call a neo-Brandisian people that are very concerned about the concentration of private power in these oligarchs created by the progressive left and the Democratic Party. Because remember, all the oligarchs, including Elon Musk, they're all progressive Democrats, right? They may put a facade of libertarianism on the top because they don't want any controls whatsoever and just do what thou wilt. But no, we're not for bigger government. What we're for is economic populism and economic nationalism. And yes, is this a victory? But it's definitely not a final victory. This fight's going to take place every day because we are trying to include these tech bros as part of our coalition and part of our alliance. There is a lot they bring to the table that's quite positive. There's also a lot to bring to the table that's not, and particularly their disregard of workers, their disregard of the worker class. We're a working class party and a middle class party and a middle class movement.
Who's next, do you think? I mean, are there other people that you see as philosophical opponents that you would rather were outside the circles of power?
I think most importantly is to sort this situation out now on the national security side with Musk. I think this is very important to get this thing sorted. And I think that ought to be the focus over the next couple of days. And the president's got his own ideas about how this thing should evolve. And he's the one at the end of the day that it rests on his shoulders. He's the one that's driving our movement. And look, he's trying to stop the Third World War right now. One of my biggest complaints about Musk is given where we are, because we have a convergence of crisis right now. Number one, you've got the beginning stages of the Third World War. President Trump spent an hour and a half on the phone with Putin on Wednesday. He spent an hour and a half on the phone yesterday with Xi. He's trying to bring some peace, to have everybody lay down their guns. Then on the other side, we have these federal judges that are stopping the deportations of the 13 million illegal aliens that came here just on Biden's watch. So he's got a judicial revolt where we have 200, I think, lawsuits trying to stop President Trump in every aspect of his Article 2 powers. And the third is the big, beautiful bill, which is going to have changes, is going to have aspects to it change, but he's trying to push that through the legislative process because this has to be done by the fall because the tax cuts to the working class and middle class expire. Given all that and so much more, you would think people would try to take the burden off his shoulders, not personally attack him, not accuse him of being part of the Epstein situation, not call for his impeachment, not call for starting a new party, not call and sit there. President Trump's only there for 3.5 years. I'm there for 40. Talk about withholding the money. You don't put more burdens on President Trump. You try to take the burdens off him. And I think the Elon Musk situation has got to be sorted first before anything else is addressed.
And what exactly does that look like? So you've recommended that he's deported. You think the evidence of the national security threat?
I said the following. I think his security clearance should be pulled immediately and held in abeyance. I think the Defense Production Act should be an executive order so that the government steps in and under new management that's there already, that both Starlink and SpaceX continue on, because he threatened to shut down one of the major programs yesterday on a tweet. You got to make sure that's steady and that the government contracts, and I think 80 or 90% of the revenue at SpaceX is government contracts. You have to make sure that that's under management that is serious and stable.
Hold on. What does that mean, though? Do you mean nationalizing SpaceX?
Not nationalizing. You take it over for a while to make sure you got the current management there, but there's a stable management. You don't have someone there that may have a major drug issue, that may have a major relationship with the Chinese Communist Party, that may not be a legal citizen. Those are the three investigations that I think have to happen right away. His drug use is outlined in the New York Times. His involvement with the Chinese Communist Party that's been outlined by the Washington Post and Wall Street Journal. And also now the citizenship question, which his brother and other people have been pretty brazen about the fact that he's overstayed a visa and illegally applied for citizenship and got a citizenship. Those three things also at the same time. An investigation into Doge. Like, where's the fraud? The president spent 3.5 minutes on his State of the Union address, or the joint address to Congress, going through all these people on Social Security that were 200 years old. There's not one penny found. At least I have asked a dozen times. There's not one penny found or made public that a penny was found that went to any of those. Those are like old bookkeeping records. We need to find out exactly what Doge did, exactly the waste, fraud, and abuse they found, not programmatically, which we're doing the cuts now, on waste, fraud, and abuse. And in addition, there has to be a major investigation that the Doge people didn't extract data sets of either information of the government or from American citizens to use to build their artificial intelligence models.
So to be clear, because it was reported in the New York Times that you had said you did want him deported, you don't think he should be deported?
By the way, I do believe, I strongly believe that he's here illegally, that he lied on all his applications and visas, and that if that's the case, he has to be deported immediately. You cannot deport 13 million people, particularly many people from the third world, and let some billionaire get away with that. So I'm very strongly for that he should be deported if it turns out that he did these things inappropriately, which I strongly believe we'll find out, but that is for people to actually investigate.
It feels like the affection is returned. He called you a communist retard this morning. Are you either of those things?
I've been sanctioned. I'm the only civilian sanctioned by the Chinese Communist Party. I lead the anti-CCP effort here that everybody knows. We have a very large effort to anti-CCP decouple. It's just this childish. I mean, you're dealing with
taking over private companies or taking over the management that he's referring to.
That's something that needs to be done. This is a national security issue. Yesterday, as a CEO and founder and major shareholder of a company that gets 90% of its revenues of government contracts, he just willy-nilly said he's canceling one of the biggest programs. Coupled with the reports that have not been refuted, he didn't want to deal with it in the Oval when he was asked a question by the Fox reporter. The New York Times story has gone unrefuted. So you have a national security, you have two major companies controlled by this guy, and it's somehow, and I say the easiest way to do it is use the Defense Production Act. You've got a management team that I hear underneath him is quite stable. They would run it until that time of his security clearance was sorted out. But I think that has to be done today. I'm the leading fighter against the Chinese Communist Party, of which let's be blunt, he's an agent of influence of the Chinese Communist Party. He's owned lock, stock, and barrel, said this for years. You saw that in what he tried to do in getting Xi over here to the inauguration. He actually forced himself into the Pentagon, which was a huge explosion. And there's a huge article today in the Atlantic magazine that backs up everything I say, that President Trump was outraged when he found out that Elon Musk determined himself to force the generals and the senior staff at the Pentagon to give him a highly classified briefing on the war plans with China. Why would Elon Musk need that other than to maybe talk to his business partners about it? He has no need to know the business plan or the strategic plan and the warfighting plan against the Chinese Communist Party, particularly around Taiwan. Now that that's a very real possibility, as our defense secretary said in Singapore on Saturday, an attack by the Chinese Communist Party, by the PLA, may be imminent in Taiwan. We've put our allies in East Asia on notice. So the question is, why is Elon Musk, who has no need to know of that whatsoever, why was he forcing himself into the Pentagon to get a highly classified brief? That has to be investigated, and his security clearance should be held in abeyance. And with no security clearance, he can't run the companies. So whether you use the Defense Production Act or anything, but I think he shows by this immature, Bannon's a communist and a retard, the fear he has of what's going to happen given his behavior. He's quite nervous.
Big picture, it's a sad day for your populist movement, isn't it?
A sad day? What are you talking about?
Well,
it's a great day for
around the world that there's infighting and division and these coalitions can't hold and there's exchanges and slurs and...
That's the British elite, the Oxford-Cambridge thing. Politics is populist nationalism is every day's a grind. You're going to have good days and bad days. It's a good day here. The populists are saying, hey, you just can't come in here and insult the president and try to take over the power of the president and say that you're going to impeach the president and saying that, I'm around for 40 years and imply that your money could go anywhere. You're not going to need it. The American people and the MAGA movement have stepped up here and said that's just not going to happen. So no, I think it's a great day. And we're going to have further great days. Our coalition's building every day. The popularity of it's building every day. President Trump's programs coming through, whether it's on tariffs, whether it's on this, the tax cuts that are coming, trying to get our hands around these deficits, what he's doing to stop the Third World War. Our movement's ascended right now, just like Nigel Farage has ascended with reform in the UK, and the populist nationalist movements on the continent of Europe are ascended. We're ascendant right now, and so it's another good day. It's another day of hard work, but it's another great day.
I'll let you get on with your day of hard work.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Steve.
Appreciate you, sir.
Well, Steve Bannon clearly thinking he had a pretty good day there, ousting or pushing out of the MAGA tent the person he distrusts and dislikes the most, Elon Musk, who represents a very different vision of what MAGA should be. In the coming days, we are going to try to talk to additional people who can shed more insight on this. And I will say, I have personally invited Elon Musk himself onto the show. Elon, if you're watching, come and explain your side of the story. Until then, thanks for tuning in. This was UnHerd.